everybody, and it's a pleasure to be here. Let me introduce you, thanks for the very kind words of introduction, but let me introduce you briefly by one line. I was a 25-year-old girl in Ceausescu's Romania when the 1989 revolutions came. And this is, nothing more should be said about these studies or anything, because this basically means that I graduated from the School of Revolution, which you can only encounter one in your life, and it can radically change your life. So in 1989, I was only having a few more months, and I was preparing to become a psychiatrist, since there were no studies in political science, or in fact anything else. Sociology had been forbidden for the past 3 years in Ceausescu's Romania, just to give you an idea. And psychology was forbidden a year before, because there were not clear reasons, only it was clear that they were both dangerous. So it was still going on. It was quite impossible to do anything intellectual, which was not touched by the political. So, you know, I had found this psychiatristic niche, and I thought I would spend the rest of my life in a lunatic asylum, reading and writing stuff, and it seemed far, far better than the society around, you know. So I'm one of the lucky people who, had a break when they were 25, which means that I was, for the past 20 years, not only a scholar, but an activist who was involved in the revolution, afterwards organized and chaired many anti-corruption activities. In other words, I have really done many, many things regarding democracy, except putting Molotov cocktails, because, you know, nobody's perfect, so I missed that one. And what I'm going to share to you today is coming out as well as from the frustration of someone who used to be an activist, as well as for some years research as someone who is a scholar and who has a chair which is called Democracy Professor, which is extremely nice. How did I come to this, you know? But I do not consider that I'm teaching democracy. I'm actually learning democracy. I've been doing this for the past 20 years, and I continue to do this and share my concerns with you. So what do I mean by beyond democratic consolidation? You know that most democratic theory actually stops once democracies are consolidated. And we teach students in schools that democracy has consolidated roughly once the rule of the game are accepted and nobody is organizing a coup d'etat to change elections results anymore. But since today we have so many new democracies around the world, we have this situation in quite a large number of democracies whose quality nevertheless doesn't evoke to us or doesn't respond to us to what we would really expect from a democracy. So the question that I am addressing today is actually what prevents the further development of these new democracies into quality democracies, into democracies which are based on democratic values and who do more than just holding regular elections. All right, so my question that I'm addressing is, why do so many new democracies remain in this very poor governance phase? And I'll give you some examples of what are the symptoms of this. The second question that I'm putting is, since we have come to be aware of this, and there's been an unprecedented global awareness of this, because since 1996 we have all these global indicators allegedly measuring governance. Transparency International Corruption Perception Index and the World Governance Indicators that you know, voice and accountability, control of corruption, rule of law, and other indicators like this. So 96, 2010, it's already 14 years since we have comparative measures of governance across the globe. And the question is, have we made much progress that we can measure in these 14 years? And what explains our progress or lack of progress, all right? And I will try to offer an explanation why progress is less than anticipated by this model, which I call competitive particularistic regime. I'll explain what this is. And suggest, very briefly, not some solutions, this would be very, very pretentious, but actually some ideas on how to get beyond that. So the main author of these governance indicators, Daniel Kaufman, who by the way spoke in this town 10 days ago or something at Transparency International, is quite concerned, and so are many other people, because since 1996 to 2008, we do not seem to have any significant trends in governance improvement worldwide. So in other words, we have a larger number of democracies, or if you want, of countries holding elections that we ever had, but in the same time, the quality of their governance does not seem to improve. I'm constantly pushing the wrong button here. People are extremely pessimistic if you ask them. You know, only 1 in 5 citizens polled by Transparency, for instance, expect corruption to decrease over next year, and more than half people feel that actually the quality of their government is fundamentally fundamentally distorted by corruption. Now, what do they understand by corruption? Allow me just a second before I move to this. What do they understand by corruption? We see if we look at Europe. Europe is allegedly the least corrupt continent in the world, except for North America. And if we look at Europe, we see that we have, in the last Eurobarometer of last December, we have 74% of Europeans who say that corruption is a major problem in their country. But if you ask Europeans how many of them had had some direct experience of corruption, in other words, they paid a bribe, they accepted a bribe, or they witnessed a bribe in their presence, the figure is somewhere at 12-13% or something like this. So the question is where does this gap come from? Where does this overwhelming perception that particularly political parties, parliaments, and politicians are corrupt, when in fact the experience of direct corruption, or what we call in everyday language corruption, seems to be actually quite restricted.